hate that to happen to our town, not to operate because our employees are out. We have multiple firemen and policemen out right now, and several of those, a pretty good percentage, probably 20-30%, were vaccinated, but they're out. And it's the people that are not vaccinated are more likely to be the people that don't wear their mask and threaten our employees, whether they're vaccinated or not.
I agree with Bob. I agree with Bob. I think we've got an obligation as elected officials to protect our employees. And previously we had the mask mandate and the temperature check. And I think it's, we've had a couple of people, maybe 3 with the COVID-19, infected by COVID-19 in one department. And we had someone come in, one of the vendors from the insurance companies, as Bob said, also brought it in. I think we have an obligation. I don't think people are going to voluntarily participate. Those people who are against the mask for whatever reason, be it political or whatever, are not going to comply. So I think we have an obligation. I suppose you have 100 people that come in and voluntarily wear the mask, and then you have 1 or 2 that don't. And those 1 or 2 could not be vaccinated, and they may be carrying the virus. And all of a sudden you got infections again. You're exposing your employees to a situation that's bad that could cause them their death. So I think, I don't mind leaving it up to the administrator, but I think we need to have something firm in place to ensure that our employees are protected when we have so many people that are visiting the town hall and coming in for different reasons. And we don't know whether these people are vaccinated or whether they're carriers of the virus, or maybe they don't even know. So I think we need to have something a little bit more firm than just voluntarily deciding whether you as an individual is going to wear the mask or not.
And at this time, most of our employees are behind security doors, so the doors don't get opened without a mask. Don't have to enforce it, just don't let them in.
Well, we got a mandatory mask rule in the fire and police department. We don't have it here. And we got way more positive readings in the fire and police department than we have here. So, you know, it's we don't know. You know, it's strange that we got, I know Rich called me yesterday and had 2 more, I think, yesterday test positive. We've been very fortunate here. We had a couple in finance, and I think maybe didn't we have 1 more, Lisa, or something? We've been very fortunate here, and we hadn't had mandatory masks here in this building where we've got a lot of employees. People have been very careful. People are wearing masks here, a lot of people. I hate to see us make it just mandatory if they, if we do it voluntarily. I think it'll work. I think people will wear masks. I put mine on sometimes. God help us if we got to do it townwide again. I don't know how I'll feel about that. But anyway, you know, we said we'd leave it up to the administrator, and now here we are talking about what we gonna do. So I'm still for leaving up to the administrator. If Lisa decides she makes it mandatory, then I'll back her on that. You know, that's my 2 cents worth.
Mr. Mayor, what do we do with the person that comes in there without a mask and put one on, which has happened in the past? If we don't do anything, we might not have the mandatory requirement. And I'm not sure what's changing now that would lead us to actually make an arrest.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure that doing anything mandatory, I guess it can be left up to the administrator, but I think it's unfair for council to put it on her back. I think that I believe we ought to encourage people to wear a mask. I think we ought to suggest that if you hadn't been fully vaccinated, we can put signs up on all of our doors that say, if you're not fully vaccinated, we request that you wear a mask. I think we ought to impose that on our employees. If you have not been fully vaccinated, that you will wear a mask. That's part of what we can do to protect ourselves internally without getting the public involved in it. I don't think there's enough science, no matter what direction we go. I don't disagree with Councilman Jackson or Councilman Bailey. I just don't think there's enough pure science to say this works or this doesn't work. And so whatever we do, I think we're just flipping a coin.
I'm not going to say the vaccination does not work. It may help, but there are an awful lot of people that are getting COVID with 2 vaccinations. And I don't think we need to make a distinction in whether or not we require the mask ordinance based on whether or not you've had the vaccine, because it's no guarantee one way.
Walter, I agree. I'm wearing my mask. I've had it. I've been vaccinated against it and been highly exposed to it. So I figure I'm safe. I'm wearing it to keep somebody else safe. And that's all I'm asking from the public.
As long as it's just asking.
Mr. Mayor, I think I was mistaken about something I said to Councilman Jackson. Looking at agenda item 4, that's apparently not the issue that I thought it was. I thought at one time in a draft agenda, we had a discussion of, and maybe this is what it's about, I don't know, but a discussion about what would happen if, as far as unvaccinated employees. I don't know if that's what number 4 is. The issue with me, I mean, the real public health issue is vaccinations. I mean, the science is unclear, as Councilman Jenkins says, but it does seem fairly obvious that you can get COVID despite being fully vaccinated, and probably more importantly, you can spread it despite being fully vaccinated. But if you are fully vaccinated, the chances of you ending up in ICU are next to 0. So, I mean, that the risk to our employees, we keep talking about the risk to our employees. The risk to our employees is that people are working for us, the town, but working, serving the public. They're public servants and they're not vaccinated. They're risking their own lives, but you know, they're while serving the public. I don't have a solution, but I'm much more concerned about people coming to work in town hall unvaccinated than I am whether or not they wear a mask.
Yes, I was informed this morning, we have 5 employees who were vaccinated. They're out with it. And at least one of them, their whole family has it.
But they're probably not going to die.
Exactly. That's why point number 4, I asked for discussion, because people do have a choice now.
Okay. I don't know where we are on this. I'm not voting for a mandate, a face mask mandate. If I do think we told our previous administrator that she had the authority to set whether or not employees or visitors to town hall wear masks. I think that's accurate. If we're going to vote on it, I'm voting no. If we're not going to vote on it, then Ms. Wallace will make that call.
And I can agree with that. And I guess I agree with that.
Before we can vote on anything, we gotta have a motion.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we allow Lisa to set the parameters for the town hall.
I don't think it's a necessary motion, but I'll second it. Just to get moved to the next item.
Got a second?
Yeah, Bill.
Okay. Any more discussion? Think backwards.
What is the motion?
To allow Lisa to have the authority to do as she deems fit.
Is this for the town hall or for all town owned?
Just town hall. Most of the other town facilities have already established their own policies.
Not sure. Not sure the authority for that, but that's fine. If your motion is for town hall, I second it and we take a vote. Do we authorize Ms. Wallace to set the parameters for town hall masks or not?
Okay. All in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
I did vote. What was the vote? What was the count?
We're waiting. Mr. Bailey, what's your vote?
No.
Ms. Kimma?
No,
You voted no, Kemmer?
yes, I voted no.
Okay. All
Mr.
right, Aaron voted
Jenkins?
no, and who else voted no?
Mr. Jenkins?
Mr. Jenkins votes no.
Okay,
How did Mr. Brown
all right.
vote?
He voted no, didn't
I
I?
voted yes.
So it's 4-3 no.
4-3 no. Okay, motion failed.
So we're gonna go to the next item or is there another motion?
I make a motion that we post signs throughout the town hall and the annex stating the council strongly recommend everyone ask.
Walter, could I add something to your motion? That individual employees can put signs on their doors that no service will be rendered without a mask?
I would strongly oppose that.
You're not going to allow somebody to protect themselves?
Well, he's making a motion, Bill.
No, Walter's making a motion. I
Yeah,
just
Walter
asked.
made the motion. Motion.
Yeah, I want to let my motion stand as is.
Second.
No, I wasn't going to, I was asking Walter to amend his own motion.
So Councilman Jenkins has now seconded Councilman Bailey's motion that we post signs saying that council strongly recommends the wearing of mask in town hall and the annex. I think that's the motion and second.
Well, it looks like we're headed, Mr. Mayor, toward a voluntary employees and public participation as far as the mask, and we're not getting to a mandate. I'm strongly in favor of a mandate. I voted to give Lisa the authority to try to protect the employees as best she can, but I think it's going to be very difficult without a mandate. Obviously, from what I'm hearing, we don't have enough votes to require a mandate, and so probably have to live with that. But I don't have a problem with giving the administrator the opportunity to try to protect employees as best she can. But I think if you're really going to do it, I think we would need a mandate. So I would just like to go on record saying that I favor a mandate.
I agree, Aaron, but I'd like to add, I think we live or die by it.
Well, I'm gonna vote, I intend to vote for Mr. Bailey's motion that we post the signs that council strongly encourages the wearing of masks. I think those signs really, I mean, they apply to employees in town hall, but they also, I mean, primarily would apply to visitors to town hall. I do believe, again, that the administrator, Ms. Wallace, has the authority without us to mandate every employee that reports to her, which is the vast majority of town employees, to wear a mask when they're at work. I don't think that's something that council should be involved in. But as far as the public at large, as they access this public building, I will support Mr. Bailey's motion that we post a sign strongly encouraging the wearing of masks.
Can we say that any of our employees that are not vaccinated has to wear a mask?
I think I think that's a question for Mr. Parker, whether you want to discriminate, and I don't mean that in a negative term, but to have different rules for different folks. I'm not going to try to answer that question. I think that we're talking about requiring masks in town hall. The town administrator or division and department heads can require the people who report to them to wear masks, and we don't need council involvement in that. But as far as visitors to town hall, I support Mr. Bailey's motion that we post a sign strongly encouraging it.
I agree.
I agree with both statements by Mr. McIntosh. Mr. Bailey's motion, I would support, and I think it's up to Ms. Wallace to decide what happens with employees.
I
Not
agree.
us.
I agree also.
Me too. Okay, we got a second on,
Mr.
Walter's
Jenkins
motion.
second.
okay, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Aye from Terry.
Okay. Okay, just two opposed that time. Kimma?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes carry. That'll do that till the next meeting probably. We'll see how the COVID rises. Okay, and now we'll go, did we do take care of 5 at the same time? No, we didn't. I mean, 4. Discussion of continuation of COVID leave pay.
As to Councilman McIntosh's point, we have a choice to be vaccinated now. And all evidence I personally know of from personal things, not any spin on TV, it at least keeps you alive. And it's very unlikely you'll end up in the hospital. So for unvaccinated people, I would like to discontinue the process of paying them while they're quarantined, because we can have somebody get quarantined every other month. And the town is paying because they choose not to be vaccinated. And I don't think that's ours or the taxpayers' responsibility now that they have a decision. When there was no decision, that was different. But now it's their choice.
I have a question for GW, I guess. What is the federal law at this time as far as COVID leave pay? I know what it used to be, but it's still the same.
Mr. Bailey, Lisa had requested our outside labor and employment council to address that very issue. So rather than my repeat what Lisa already knows, I'll let her respond.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, can you all hear me?
Yes.
In 2020, the federal government mandated that all employers offer COVID pay. That mandate has ended. Many employers are continuing to offer COVID pay to employees, but we are no longer required to do that.
Okay. Thank you. I understand now.
Well,
To make sure, to understand what, sorry if I interrupted somebody. If I'm understanding what Mr. Jackson is asking, if employees have not had COVID shots, and they get COVID, they can use sick leave or other leave to be paid, but not COVID leave. If they have had their vaccinations and get COVID, as many have, they would be entitled to COVID leave. Am I expressing that correctly?
You're expressing that correctly. They did everything they could to avoid it and still got it. That's not their responsibility. It may be part of their job if people aren't wearing masks.
I believe
If
that
that's your motion, I second it.
I believe the the first question, before we address that one, ought to be whether or not we continue to have the COVID leave policy in the first place. If we don't, it's not mandatory under the federal law. And if we decide not to do it, then the issue kind of goes away. I'm not in favor of continuing the COVID leave policy. I think we've already got a sick leave policy. You can be just as sick with something else besides COVID, and we're not doing anything extra for those people. And I also kind of hate to say this, but I think some people took advantage of the COVID leave pay policy, working at home. And I think that should be the first issue, again, whether or not we continue that leave policy.
Well, to follow up on what Mr. Bailey is saying, I hadn't really given much thought about whether we were continuing what had been federally mandated COVID leave policy. It would seem to me that discontinuing, if I understand Mr. Jackson's motion, I think I do, it would seem to me the cleanest way to address this would be to do as Mr. Bailey is suggesting and just end the policy, because otherwise, and obviously I would defer to Mr. Parker or outside employment counsel. Otherwise, when someone gets sick enough from COVID that they're missing work, we have to make some sort of determination, some sort of investigation as to whether they're vaccinated or not. And I don't know, I'm just a country lawyer. I don't know whether that's legal or not.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I'll change my motion to just discontinue COVID leave pay.
Let me say something about that. That's easy for you to sit up here and say that, but I can only speak for public safety personnel. But it's true with everybody that we got working for the town. They'll gladly show you their card if they get COVID, I promise you, if they've been vaccinated. But I'm gonna use the police and fire department because I stay closely involved with them. Right now, and I'll go by North Charleston Fire Department too. Right now, in the North Charleston Fire Department, they're getting ready to shut down companies. That means take engine companies off the floor. So you'll end up losing fire defense in your city, which we are not there yet in Somerville, but getting close. Now, if you deflate these people, and some of these people come to work and they don't have any leave yet. So you take their COVID leave from them and they get COVID and they're vaccinated, and these people get vaccinated, most of them. And we're doing away with this COVID leave. They don't have any leave, so they don't get paid. So they go off sick. And when you get COVID, you're sick. And so they don't get any pay. And we lose other people because they get COVID, and then we don't have any firefighters. The same true with the police department. I keep saying over and over again that we're not paying our people enough money, and we're not. And we got a turnover in our police department, our fire department, our public works. Everywhere there's a turnover. We're competing with the free enterprise system. They having turnovers, and they paying people way over what they should be paying them just to get them to come to work. And it's real easy for us to sit here and say, well, we'll just do away with the COVID pay altogether. And we got a guy out there that might have 5 days leave on the books with no sick leave, and he gets COVID. And he's automatically, with what he's got to quarantine and the days he's sick, he's going to be off work for a long time with no pay. How in the hell is he going to feed his family?
I agree, Ricky, and I'll go back to my original motion.
And all we say is, well, we just go do away with this COVID pay. That's real easy. I can't go along with that, guys. I mean, I'm going to fight for our employees when it comes to the situation we're in right now with this COVID. I mean, they don't want to get COVID. They're working together. The cops are working together. They're side by side. They're touching one another. They don't want to be grabbing one another at a car wreck and crawling up in a car together and doing the things that they have to do. The firemen don't want to be sleeping together and doing what they do to do their job. They bound to get this COVID. They're going to get it, and we can't do anything about it. So let's don't cut that payoff, please.
I agree with that, Ricky. So I'll go to my original motion, which Walter has already seconded.
Oh, you had a
I'll
motion.
stick with my original second.
Oh, it was Terry. Sorry, Terry.
It's okay.
Can you reach that?
Yes, the
Bob?
motion is if you get COVID or are quarantined and are not vaccinated, then you do not get the COVID leave pay. If you are vaccinated and show your card, you will get the COVID leave pay.
I go along with that 100%.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm just worried about the implementation of it.
I'm
I'm thinking,
opposed to it. I just think that's discrimination against our people. For some reason, they're not getting the vaccine. There might be other reasons that we don't know about, health reasons, etc. I just think it's a discrimination against those people.
I do also, and I think it comes real close to having a vaccine passport, which I would oppose. So I think we ought to treat everyone the same if they get COVID, and not pick and choose which ones we think are more deserving assistance.
I think if they have a reason not to get the COVID, or religious reason, or some sickness that they have where they can't get the vaccine, then we ought to excuse that. And they should be able to get the COVID pay. But if they just don't want to get the COVID pay because of their trifleness or whatever, then they ought to fall into that category that Bob's talking about. But
I'm not
last thing
sure.
I want to do is cut their pay, I can tell you that.
I agree with not wanting to cut the pay after what you've presented. I'm just concerned about what excuses are you going to accept if someone doesn't have a vaccination? They might have the antibodies from being infected previously and don't think they need it. They may have a health reason. I don't think we can question somebody about the specifics of their health issues.
I agree with you, Walter.
I'm not even sure we can question them as to whether they're vaccinated, but I will say this, and I guess I don't know how I'm going to vote, but I'm just going to share my thoughts on it. When you come to work with the town of Somerville, it's not just a job. If you're here just because you needed a job, you need to work somewhere else. If you're working with the town of Somerville, it's because you want to serve the public. And at this point, I just can't wrap my head around why somebody would come to us and want to serve the public and not get vaccinated. I don't understand it. I mean, you're putting yourself, at risk of death. We don't pay enough, as the mayor says, but you also have a true Cadillac health plan in my estimation, better than the state plan, at least as good as my understanding, at least as good as some of the major employers in the area. And if you're unvaccinated and you get it, I mean, I certainly want you to survive. I mean, I absolutely wish the very best for you and your family, but you may end up costing our health care plan $500,000 or more. And eventually our premiums are going to go up, and our premiums are paid primarily by our taxpayers, the people you're supposed to be serving. So I just think if you're working for us and you're not vaccinated, you're missing the role of a public servant. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay, what's the motion?
Motion is if you are not vaccinated and get COVID, there is no COVID pay, leave pay. If you are vaccinated and did the best you could to protect yourself, the town will cover you.
All right, just for clarification, Bob, are there any exceptions that you would accept you've already got the antibody, or you have a health issue, or
If you have a health issue, just a letter from your doctor would do it. And I know I've had to do that for much simpler things, and it's not a big problem.
Proven medical exceptions.
Yes.
I think legally it's medical exceptions and religious exceptions.
Yes. Yeah,
That is
correct.
Okay. Terry, you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right, that's plenty of discussion. I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Likewise.
No,
No,
Okay, who voted no?
I did.
Emma?
and Kimma,
Who else?
Walter.
Walter and Kimmel. Okay. Ayes, carry.
Second reading of an ordinance for the lease at 100 West Richardson Avenue, Suites A and B.
Okay, I hear a motion.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I think I'm supposed to vote on everything I don't have a conflict on, and I didn't vote. I'm gonna vote no. It'll still pass 4-3. I'm just gonna say for the record, the only reason I'm voting no, I agree with the sentiments behind it completely. I'm voting no because I think implementation of it would be a nightmare. So my vote was nay on the last issue.
No on the COVID date. Okay. All right, now we go. Okay, Beth, you read that on Richardson Avenue. I have, do we get a motion? No.
Well, number 5, I would move second and final reading of the ordinance.
I'll second that. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of this, raise your hand. Aye. Vote aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed likewise.
Aye.
Ayes, carry. 6, Ms. Beth.
Second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 22 Stormwater Management, Section 22-115, entitled Classifications of Property and Determination of the Interim Utility Fee.
Okay, a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve that.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that one of our qualified employees explain what we're doing here, because it mentions utility fee, and I don't want to give the general public the idea that, you know, their light bill or something is going to go up.
The light bill might be going up.
So, Russ, you want to explain that?
On Russ.
This is the ordinance, second reading the ordinance to change the stormwater utility fee. Basically, it changes the single-family residential unit from $4 a month to $8 a month, or $96 per year, which is collected on the tax property bills. Commercial fees are not going to change. Outdoor recreation fees will be calculated with the commercial rate, but cut in half the commercial rate. So those are the 3 changes this ordinance is making.
And I know I've asked you to say this in meetings previously, while we are increasing the residential rate, the residents, the citizens of Somerville will no longer be paying the county fee. Is that correct?
That's right, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Russ.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Not all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed
Aye.
likewise.
Aye.
Okay, ayes, carry.
May I ask one question about item number 4? Are you all okay if we establish a date that it starts? Just to give me an opportunity to notify employees and perhaps give them an opportunity to go get the shots if they choose to do so. September 15th,
No.
September 30th,
No, I think it's,
to set the date? Okay,
Yeah,
all right, thank you.
Authorize the town administrator to request $7,796,973 from the U.S. Department of Treasury for the town of Somerville's allocation of the American Rescue Plan.
I make this motion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second. Motion made and seconded. Any questions?
May I add one thing,
Yeah,
Mayor? Just for clarification, the request for the $7 million drawdown, we will only get 50% of that for the initial drawdown. The other 50% we won't receive until 12 months later. So just wanted to make sure you all were aware of that.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, Lisa, let me ask you this. When we receive this money, you will present a list of how the money should be spent to the council for us to vote on?
Yes, sir. We've got some staff working on putting that list together for you, and we anticipate having a proposed list for you all to consider at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand. Aye.
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 Opposed, likewise.
Aye.
Ayes carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I heard what Ms. Wallace said. I think it would be very helpful if there are going to be recommendations from staff at the Finance Committee meeting, that we at least know what those are and the rationale prior to that, so that we might be able to have discussion on that prior to the meeting.
You can have that at the next meeting, Finance Committee meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's the plan.
yeah, Lisa said she could do that. You hear me, Terry?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. No, I mean, that wasn't a motion. That was just a request to
Right.
get the information so we could look at it prior to the meeting.
Okay, yeah, she's gonna get that done for you, for us.
Okay, thanks.
Consideration of in-person absentee voting period at the Rollins Edwards Community Center for the 2021 election.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
I think the issue is the length of time as well. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to amend your motion. Or maybe you need a second. I'll second for the purposes of discussion. And then I would move that we amend that motion to say that we would have a 2-week in-person absentee voting period at Rollins Edwards Community Center.
I'll second
Is there a reason that I know it cost us additional money. I know that the board, generally speaking, does not want to do it. It seems superfluous to me to have that open for 2 weeks.
I'm not aware of anybody not wanting to do it. We pay for it.
I know.
There will be.
That's why I'm not wanting to do it. We pay for it.
All right. The vote no.
Mr. Mayor, if I may speak on that.
I have to know your opinion on everything.
I'm in favor of the 2 weeks as a candidate, because I think it makes a big difference. It can determine the outcome of an election, and it has in the past. The absentee votes are very important. If you take into account your disabled, your elderly, and handicapped people, they utilize the system of absentee voting. So the additional funds to do it 1 week versus 2 weeks, 2 weeks versus 1 week, is minuscule in my opinion, when you're talking about the most important thing that people can do as far as relates to their governance is to cast a vote. And so I don't know who's against it, but I'm in favor of it. I think it's very important to give people every opportunity to cast a vote.
My understanding is there will be in-person voting in St. George for a period of 30 days. And the
Correct.
County Election Commission will be running the municipal elections in Somerville, Ridgeville, I think St. George, Harleyville, whoever's having municipal elections in the county. And for 30 days, folks can drive all the way to St. George to vote in the Somerville election. But this is whether or not to have in-person within the Somerville town limits is completely our decision. And we have to pay for it. And we can pay for 1 day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, or the whole 30 days. I think 2 weeks is a reasonable period of time to have people be able to vote in-person absentee and not drive all the way to St. George.
I agree with that, but I'd like to know what the cost is per week to have it stay open for absentee voting. Does anyone know that?
I do. The extra week was around $3,500.
Thank you.
Okay.
And let me ask one point of clarification. And Ms. McIntosh, thanks for the information on the in-person voting in St. George. Is there still by mail absentee voting as well?
I think that's a matter of state law, yes.
Okay, so what we've done in the past and what's been added to is we've always been able to vote absentee ballot by mail. We've had 1 week of in-person absentee ballot, and now we can vote in person in St. George for the full 30 days prior to doing anything additional. Is that correct?
I'm not sure when we started allowing people to vote in the town of Somerville in person. It may have just been the last cycle or two. Maybe when you and Mayor Waring ran, may have been the first time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't have a dog in the fight because I'm not running it. If I was running, I'd certainly rather have in-person absentee for 2 weeks. That way you know who's voted and you can leave it alone. Try to get them somebody else.
I talked to Aaron about it, and at first I didn't think it was a good idea. But Aaron is adamantly for it, and he's the one running. So if I was in his place and I was running and I was for it 100%, I guess he would go along with me. So I told him last week, and whenever we talked, I said, well, I'll go along with you if you think that's better than taking that week and getting out and beating the street. But you know, that's why I'm going along with it, because Aaron and I talked, and he's convinced me that he thinks he can do better having that extra week to get people to the polls. So that's my reason for being behind it. Now Kimma said she thinks it's a good idea. So far, Kimma, you don't have any opposition, do you? I don't think she does.
Not yet.
Not yet. Anyway, any other discussion on that? If not, all in favor, say, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
Aye.
No.
Okay, ayes carry. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor, say signify by raising your right hand, saying aye.
Aye.